All right, let's just jump right into today's explainer. We're going to be taking a calm, really reflective look at this subtle but honestly profound shift happening in our modern cognitive landscape. It's a shift that's changing how we think, how we interact with our screens, and ultimately how we process reality itself. Because, surprisingly, in an age where we are just drowning in information, we're actually losing the structural ability to ask questions.
So, let's start by looking at a pretty wild modern paradox. We live in this era where the space of not knowing is filled almost instantly, like any gap in your knowledge, closed in seconds. And yet, as our sources point out, genuine questioning is fading away. We really have to ask ourselves, why does having infinite answers right at our fingertips lead to the disappearance of the actual question?
Section 1. The disappearance of questions.
What's absolutely crucial to grasp right off the bat is that we aren't starting with a lack of knowledge here. It's actually a decline in the structural act of questioning itself. Society today moves through this thick atmosphere of rapid explanation. We get less silence, which naturally leads to more explanation, and that creates this really quick, almost artificial sense of understanding. But this whole rapid cycle, it's masking the loss of deep, unresolved inquiry. Basically, because we feel like we understand, we just end up generating fewer genuine questions.
Moving on to Section 2. The age of instant explanation. So, it probably doesn't surprise you that technology acts as the primary catalyst for this entire cognitive shift. Our digital environment is quite literally built for speed and resolution. Think about it. Search engines instantly fill the void of uncertainty. AI gives us these immediate, perfectly digestible summaries. And the endless ocean of explanatory content completely eliminates the friction of not knowing. Tech has essentially rushed in to seamlessly fill that mental space that uncertainty used to occupy. We just don't have to sit with the unknown anymore.
And there's this quote from the source material that brilliantly illustrates the hidden cost of all this speed. It says, "What is lost is not the answer, but the time it takes for a question to form." Wow. It highlights how we are losing that silent, necessary incubation period you need for a question to organically emerge. We get so hyper-focused on reaching the destination, getting the answer, that we've practically paved right over the soil where the inquiry actually grows.
Which brings us to Section 3, two paths of cognitive friction.
Let's break down the structural difference here, starting with the organic path. The organic origin of a question actually requires a really slow progression. It always kicks off with discomfort. That tiny, kind of transparent pain of just not getting something. But then, crucially, there's a pause. You just sit with it. And that pause eventually leads to exploration, kind of wandering through the void of the unknown, until it finally crystallizes into a genuine, fully formed question.
Now contrast that organic path with our modern reflex. Discomfort still happens, sure, but it immediately triggers a search. And that search is instantly met with an explanation. So the whole trajectory abruptly terminates in cognitive closure. The organic process is completely short-circuited.
So the vital takeaway here is that the modern pathway completely strips out that pause and exploration phase and replaces it with a rapid search and explanation loop. It inevitably leads us straight to a closed point, to closure, rather than leaving us with the open vector of a question.
Let's look at Section 4, the illusion of completion.
So why does this rapid jump to closure feel so natural to us, even when it's actively costing us our curiosity? Well, the answer lies in the quirks of human cognition. People rarely stop searching because they've actually found the absolute truth or the perfect answer. We usually halt our cognitive trajectory simply because we've achieved a satisfying feeling of completion. We stop because we feel like we understand. And honestly, AI and search engines, they are perfectly engineered to deliver that exact feeling of completion on demand.
But we have to ask, what happens to a society that constantly defaults to this pathway of cognitive closure? The source text lays it out pretty clearly. Learning technically remains, but true exploration vanishes. Our collective knowledge increases, yeah, but genuine discovery drops off. The sheer volume of explanation expands, but that quiet, necessary space for contemplation just shrinks. We end up incredibly rich in facts, but drastically depleted when it comes to the open-ended pursuit of the unknown.
Section 5. Questions as open hinges.
To restore a bit of balance here, we need to completely reframe what a question actually is, viewing it through this philosophical lens of reflective humanism. In this framework, a question isn't just a state of ignorance that we need to quickly cure with an answer. Not at all. A question is an active, structural mechanism. Its whole job is to keep our relationship with reality fluid and open. It acts as a device to maintain continuous generation, letting our understanding keep evolving, rather than letting us fall into cognitive fixation, where we just assume we know it all.
Furthermore, questions aren't just tools for extracting answers from the world. The sources describe them, quite beautifully actually, as the spare capacity or the internal buffer of our cognitive architecture. They give us the breathing room needed to maintain what they call unclosedness. This buffer allows us to interact with the world without violently forcing every single thing into fixed, rigidly evaluated buckets of good or bad, right or wrong.
I absolutely love this quote from the source material. Questions are hinges that allow observation to continue. Just think about that for a second. Without a hinge, a door is literally just a wall. Questions act as the hinges of our mind, permitting this spiral of learning to quietly and continuously ascend, which is what keeps our observation of the world alive and dynamic.
Section 6. Living with the unanswered. When we zoom out and look at the ultimate implications of these two pathways, the structural difference is just massive. A reality that actively sustains questions operates on a continuous, generative spiral. It's always updating itself recursively. On the flip side, a world that loses its questions, a world that rushes to closure every single time, forces our consciousness into a rigid, finalized state. Because of that, maintaining this state of unclosedness, actively resisting the urge to instantly resolve every unknown, it becomes a really vital ethical and cognitive practice. The text suggests that preserving this open space means we actually have to protect the friction. We need to protect that transparent pain and the small, awkward discomfort that happens right before a question fully forms. Honestly, the ability to just sit quietly with the unclosed, to act as a neutral atmosphere without immediately demanding your phone give you an explanation, well, it's quickly becoming an incredibly rare and profound cognitive skill.
So I'm going to leave you with this space to inhabit and reflect on. As our technology just continues to race to flawlessly close every single gap in our knowledge, what are we truly losing when we bypass the friction that precedes a question? Do we, as humans, actually need more answers right now? Or do we desperately need to recover the ability to simply remain with what has not yet been answered?